I'm Alison from Alison's Astrology, and I'm here today to talk to you about the week that begins on the 23rd of March and goes through to the 29th of March. Although actually we'll have a look at Sunday the 30th as well, because that's a really important date when Neptune moves into Aries. So we're currently into the third week of March and the last week of March actually, and astrology just isn't slowing up. Um, so I've said before that this period between these two eclipses can be quite weird and unstable, especially with both Venus and Mercury retrograde. So this isn't really a time for making any major decisions. So I hope you've managed to hold off on that. Unless these are maybe things you've been thinking about for a while and you really sense that now it's come to a conclusion. And that could have happened this weekend just gone, because Saturday the 22nd saw what we call a Venus cazimi moment, with Venus right at the heart of the sun, Venus conjunct the sun at 2 degrees of Aries. And that was the early hours of the morning that it actually happened in Europe, early hours of Sunday morning. So for me, this actually coincided with some fairly intense socializing, which was lovely. I was with friends. And we had loads of discussion around the dinner table, as you do with friends. And appropriately, the moon was in Capricorn, because we were discussing the Friends house building project. And the moon and Capricorn is always quite interested in property and in making money too, but in lots of things, but especially in property and buildings. That's Capricorn has a real affinity with those things. So I'm going to share the screen with you and just show you that chart actually. Yeah, here we are. Great. So there we have it. There's the Venus and Sun together at that 2 degrees of Capricorn and 2 degrees of Aries, sorry. And here we've got the moon in Capricorn. So that was all about the building projects. So the Venus-Sun conjunction, though, it's known when Venus is moving retrograde, it's known as the inferior conjunction. When it's moving forwards, it's known as the superior conjunction. And this inferior conjunction is actually the beginning of Venus' new cycle. Seems unlikely, but that's how it is. And actually, we've been used to seeing Venus sort of in that sunset sky for months now, and she's now disappearing. She's no longer visible, and she will reappear in April as a morning star. So it's a new part of the cycle, in fact. And the fact that it's a new cycle means effectively that the retrograde period of reflection on relationships and values and all those Venus themes, what you want, what you desire, has actually sort of come to a close now, really. And the final 3 weeks of the retrograde cycle are very much about preparing for the new phase of Venus. So when you're preparing for the new phase, really you're deciding what to take with you. You know, you've been thinking about it and now you're deciding, making those decisions and preparing to kind of scoop those up and take them into your life and also leave other things behind. And it's especially important as Venus has been going now from Aries, the beginning of the zodiac, into Pisces, and now it's going back into Pisces and then it will go back into Aries. So very much beginnings with Aries and endings with Pisces. So important times, and the endings and beginnings, it's really the theme for the entire year. So there we are. So the Venus theme actually continues on Thursday morning when Venus does actually do that retrograde back to meet Neptune in those final minutes of the final degree of Pisces. I mean, Neptune's been hanging out there for a while, and I'm convinced that's why it's been raining so much. And this is the last time that Neptune's there, as I keep saying, for 160 years. So we need to pay attention. We need to kind of absorb what's happening. These shifts, these major shifts of these outer planets are important for social change, important signatures of social change, I should say. And the moon is joining the stellium in Pisces for the occasion. So if we move forward a little bit hang on, let me just move my chart forward a little bit. And there's Venus. Whoops, there we go, just one more. Moving back into Pisces, and the moon is joining as well. So there's a whole stellium again there. The sun, of course, is still in Aries, as is Mercury, but that'll be moving shortly too. So Yeah, so Venus is exalted in Pisces, so happy, happy in Pisces. It's kind of a higher octave of Neptune is like a higher octave of Venus. So the two kind of merge well together. And the theme, of course, is love. And it's more than just individual love, it's universal love. It's about love for everything, love for the planet, merging into the universe almost. And here in this last degree of Pisces, there's almost a bittersweet sense to it because it's the last time again that this is going to happen in our lifetimes. Venus meeting Neptune in Pisces. So it's tinged with a nostalgia and a little bit of sadness, perhaps. All these last moments of planets conjunct Neptune in Pisces have that kind of sense of an ending, if you like. The sense that things aren't ever going to be quite the same way again, because that is actually true. Everything that we've got used to, everything that we've kind of accustomed ourselves to is now shifting. So we need to kind of somehow learn to shift with it. And the moon, of course, coming into Pisces there is preparing for the new moon in Aries. So that too is at the end of its cycle, just increasing, if you like, the emphasis on that introspective theme and the coming together of things. So, what's concluding in our lives? What are we taking with us? This is a moment of dissolution of love, but of dissolution as well, and of release. It's really a moment of release, this last time of Neptune in Pisces. So pay special attention as well if you have planets or angles in the very last degrees of the mutable signs, and that's Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces, as you're going to be especially triggered by these aspects. So release, the theme of release, and that makes way for Saturday's new moon and solar eclipse. So let's just have a look at that. So there we've got Thursday, and we're just moving, the moon moving through Pisces now. And, oops, I've gone too far, sorry. I'll get there. Yeah, okay. So the moon's just gone a little bit past it, but I can change that to hours and we can go back just a tiny bit. And there we see. There we see the new moon, 9 degrees of Aries again, that very same degree that both Venus and Mercury turned retrograde on. So this degree has really been triggered. So if you have anything at all in your chart, that kind of is at that degree, then you're going to be feeling it in that area of life, the energy that's symbolized by that particular planet or angle that's on that degree. It's important. And now having had the kind of the retrogrades and the moving backwards, now there's going to be a sense perhaps of just, again, this sense of releasing, letting something go so that the new, whatever it is, can begin. And that includes 9 degrees of any of the cardinal signs, actually, which is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So this could be challenging, actually. This could have been challenging for you, and it could have been difficult, yeah. It could have been a fight for something you want to manifest. It could have been something hurtful. It could have been something positive that you've been really working towards. But this final solar eclipse on this nine degrees of Aries might just give you that boost, that kind of shot of energy that you've been waiting for to kind of finish off whatever it was. And although this is a new moon, so new beginnings, of course, it's also the final eclipse in the Aries Libra cycle. So that Aries Libra cycle actually began back on the 20th of April 2023. So think back, is there anything that's kind of resonant in your life now that goes back to that time? So this might be that chapter coming to a conclusion if that is the case. Think about what started back then. In fact, this whole eclipse weekend is very difficult to call. It feels quite contradictory with endings and beginnings, dissolution symbolized by all those planets kind of, well, Mercury and Venus conjuncting Neptune in Pisces, and then the contrast with that kind of vibrant energy of Aries. And then, of course, on Sunday the 30th, just after the Mercury Neptune conjunction, Neptune's moving into Aries. And that's, again, it's an outer planet. It's going to go backwards and forwards, finally landing in Aries in January 2026. But really, this first kind of foot in the Aries fire, if you like, is really important. So pay special attention to what's happening over this coming weekend. It really is crucial. And it's going to kind of set a tone, I think. This whole week is setting a tone for what's happening globally and personally as we move forward. So now we are technically into next week. I'm talking about Neptune in Aries on Sunday the 30th, but hey, we can be a bit flexible. And Neptune is actually telling us about what we dream about, what we idealize as a collective. And it's been in Pisces since 2012. So that period has really seen a growth in inclusiveness, I think. Black Lives Matter, the LGBTQ community, and the idea really is of humanity as one, which is kind of brought together by social media and the internet. No strangers, as it were, on this earth. But as kind of Neptune's continued to move through Pisces and arrived at that final degree, I think, we're beginning to trust the media less certainty about what's true, Neptune is illusion, AI and all the stuff that we've associated with Pluto and Aquarius as well feeds into that Neptune, and we don't know what's happening anymore. We don't know if a video that we see is even true. You can make them up, and they're super convincing. So that's where we've got to really. And now, and I think we see this very much in what Trump's doing. The emphasis is becoming on the individual. He's kind of trying to break up all those inclusive movements that we have kind of managed to bring together over the last sort of decade and more. So as Neptune moves into Aries, the sign of the hero, is going to be much more to do with individual will, independent action, independent goals, less to do with the kind of collective. So it's going to be important to hold on to our sense of self-worth. And this, I think, is why Venus is retrograde at this time, so we can really understand what it is we want to bring forward with us into the Neptune in Aries era. I think that's really important. Remember what we as individuals love and value and are bringing forward and are going to take into this new age. So thank you for joining me. That's it for this week. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my other offerings in the notes below, including a really comprehensive video on Neptune in Aries that I did with Terry. And I'll just sort of show you Neptune moving here. There we go. That's Sunday and Neptune's there. So thanks very much for listening. That was, an exciting week. Am I looking forward to it? Kind of not. So we'll see how it goes. And I look forward to talking to you all next week for next week's exciting astrology. Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.